First off, what did we learn from OTAs? As I mentioned before, there's a ton of stuff that we can get out of OTAs, but we can't take it all that seriously. They're not in pads. It's difficult, especially offensive line play. A lot of things are difficult to surmise when you're talking about OTAs when they're just out there in shorts. But still, you can get enough work in to still figure a couple of things out. So the one thing that we noticed after the first week and even the first day of OTAs, look, the number 2 wide receiver position, we got to get somebody. I hate to be Debbie Downer, but it's just not looking great right now. Now, again, a lot of things can change once you put on pads, and I believe a lot of things will. But as it sits right now, the number 2 wide receiver position has to be addressed. I think Roman Wilson can be the guy, but we'll see. We will see. Look, we know that George Pickens is number 1, but at number 2, Roman Wilson, 3rd-round pick out of Michigan. We'll see what he can do. Everybody else, they're more slot type receivers. I'm not sure they're solid number 2 receivers as of right now. I think there's a possibility that we could still go out there on the market. I'm still a big Cortland Sutton fan and paying him to be the number 2 receiver. But we'll see what the Steelers want to do. We'll see what they fathom after OTAs. Remember, we still got OTAs. We still got a mini camp coming up. So we still have some time to try to figure this thing out. Number 2, slot corner. Look, this has been the big talk of what's going on within the Steelers right now. Look, Joey Porter Jr. is the number 1 corner. You know that Dante Jackson is number 2. But who is going to play slot corner? Look, if we're being honest, Steeler fans, right now, the people that are at that position, it's a lot of average. It's a lot of average. That's not a good thing when you're in a league, the National Football League, that throws the football around as much as it does. Look, I like Anthony Everett. I do. I think he can be a guy. Beanie Bishop could possibly be a guy. There's guys that are out there that we can possibly put out there that can be in that position, but it just hasn't looked good yet. And like I said, it's a lot of average. Can we go out there and get us a corner? Yeah. I would love for us to be able to do that. But just from what we're looking at, I know Corey Trice, there's still all this buzz about him, but the injury problems, that's my only thing with him. Just the injury bug as far as what he brings to the table. Not saying that he can't play, not saying he wasn't going to be a good player last year, but he got hurt. Again, that's kind of the knock. Again, I mentioned it on previous podcasts. The reason he dropped so far in the draft is because of injury issues. The reason that he didn't play last year, he was injured again. And again, you never blame guys for being hurt because that's tacky. But at the same time, the age-old saying, the best ability is availability. So we got a lot of guys that are average out there right now. We'll see if they can get better as OTAs progress. Third thing is, look, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, this battle for quarterback, which technically really isn't a battle. Everything that Mike Tomlin has said and that we've seen, Russell Wilson is going to be the starter. Should he be the starter? Again, that's up for debate. I am under the personal opinion that I think Justin Fields needs to win the job. I don't think we should give him the job, but I think in the long term, Justin Fields needs to get the job. Now, here's the one thing about Justin Fields is he is not settling in to be just a backup. Now, granted, I get it. A former first-round pick, a former starter. Yeah, that guy doesn't want to be a backup. But listen to what Justin Fields has to say about the competition with him and Russell Wilson right now.
Competing. I think, Russ knows that. We're competing against each other every day. Him being out there for me, us keep getting better, us pushing each other. So, I definitely don't have the mindset of, me just, sitting all year. So, I'm coming in every day, giving it all I got, and, pushing him to be his best, and he's, pushing me to be my best each and every day. So, appreciate that.
Yeah, I like it. I like that. Now, I know that footage is a week old or two, but that's okay. I like where Justin Fields' head is at. He's basically saying, I'm going to push him every step of the way. Now, again, no team wants a backup that that doesn't want to be the number one guy. So all that stuff is clearly it's obvious. Having said that, I've said this from the beginning. I just believe that if Justin Fields wins the job, not given, if he wins the job, that is what's best for the Steelers in the long run. I think that because he'll be the quarterback for the next decade. Russ will not. I know there's a lot of people out there that think that Russ is better than him, and maybe he is. And maybe for the short future, maybe that's what's best for the Steelers. And if it is, I'll be on board with that. But I think we're going to learn a lot again from these OTAs. We'll learn a lot from minicamp. We'll learn even more at training camp on where Justin Fields sits. But I like the simple fact that he's going out there and competing and trying to go win this job. I love that fact out of him that he's not just sitting back and being complacent about it. Now, lastly, or I shouldn't say lastly, next, talking about Dan Moore Jr. So his future is just uncertain, on what he wants to do. Um, I think I speak for every Pittsburgh Steelers fan out there. Dan Moore Jr. cannot be the starting left tackle when the season starts, barring injury. That can't happen. Okay. And also, I'm under the impression, look, Dan Moore Jr. Doesn't go anywhere. I'm willing to deal him and get rid of him if that's the case may be, but you're going to have to come off of something. Fifth round pick or better for Dan Moore Jr. Because while I don't want him to be the starter, he absolutely would be the best swing tackle in the National Football League with the number of starts that he's had at left tackle. Now, I know he's saying he can't play right tackle, but listen to what Dan Moore Jr. has said in a recent interview talking about the possibility of moving around and being that right tackle if he needs to be.
It's one of those things where it's a fine line. I mean, based off of the amount of starts that I have on the left side, I would like to view myself as a left tackle in this league. The reality is, there's competition. Teams have different views. So, I mean, it's kind of just wherever they need me, then I got to adapt. Not everyone can play both sides. The people that can are really blessed and really athletic people. But yeah, I mean, I kind of just do whatever they tell me.
Huh. Some of that is like, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's not. It's like, look, we love Dan Moore. The guy, he tries, he plays hard. Did he get better last year? That's debatable. I'm not sure he did. But the bottom line is this: he can't be the Steelers starting left tackle when we start the season. Again, barring injury, that just can't happen. I don't think he can be a starter at all. We love him because he tries, he plays hard, he gives it everything that he has. But Dan Moore Jr. just can't be a tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. Would be an awesome backup, would be a phenomenal swing tackle with his experience, absolutely. But I don't think the Steelers just give him away either. Yeah, there's a possibility that he would just walk next year after free agency. Okay. Or whenever he could walk. But okay, then you just let him do that. I don't think the Steelers just bend over and just say, nope, this guy, you can just take him off our hands for a seventh round pick. I think that's a bad play for Dan Moore Jr. I think we keep him on the roster and have him be that swing tackle. In that interview, it sounded like at least he's open to it because I think he knows, hey, the Steelers have basically drafted over me. The last 2 years, they've taken 2 tackles in the first round. That tells me something, and I get that. So, but we'll get back to more of the tackles later. And Najee Harris losing weight. Look, there's a couple of different ways that you can look at this for Najee. I think it's Najee's coming into camp saying, you know what? This is my last year in Pittsburgh. More than likely, I just don't see how the Steelers are going to sign him to a long-term deal. I don't see why they would. So he's thinking, I've got to, number one, have the best year that I can possibly have. Number two, I need to come into camp and everything in the best possible shape that I can possibly be. And three, be better at the things that I am not so good at. And we know that Najee has not been great laterally in his career. He just hasn't been. And I think in this offense, he's going to need to be. It's one of the things that he has to be. So losing, and again, depending on who you ask, 15, 25 pounds, somewhere in between, he looks good. He absolutely looks good. and getting him out on the field and being able to do some of those things. Look, in an Arthur Smith offense, we saw it with Atlanta last year. You're going to have to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Now, Najee's got good hands, but not catching just swing passes. He's going to have to be able to go downfield, run option routes, run out routes, do those sorts of things in this offense. Najee's going to have to be able to do that. So losing this weight, and depending on how he lost it, it can help, number one, with his agility, to be able to gain some agility and even be stronger, even if he weighs less. But two, he also understands, hey, man, this is a big year for me. If I want to get big money somewhere. So if he's wanting to get paid, he's got to have a good year. He knows he's going to be sharing carries with Jaylen Warren. Jaylen Warren's coming on strong. But to be able to go get paid somewhere, I think this was a necessity. But again, Najee Harris is going to be on the Steelers football team this year. Him losing weight, excellent sign, people.